Good day and welcome to today's lesson. So far so good. We have created our MySQL connection. We have created our connected to the MySQL, created our database, and then we have gone as far as creating a table in our database called customers, right? So now, what if we want to add value to that table? What I mean is that we want to begin to add data and entries into our database. So what we do is that we come here, we change our SQL. Mind you, what you write here, you can actually copy it and write it directly here. Like just write it here like this. And it will still work. But just to keep our code clean, that's why I prefer to put it inside a variable and simply put that variable here. So now let's say we want to select or get data from insert data into our table. What we do is that we write insert into, then you go ahead and write your table name, and in this instance, let me check, our table name was what? Customers, right? So customers, and then you put in the columns you actually want to insert things into. Remember, we have three columns. We have our column called ID, we have our column called name, and our column called address. But in this insert, I want to insert only two columns. That's our name column and our address column. Remember, our ID column auto increments. That means data will be added to it automatically in ascending order. But if there are other columns that probably don't want to auto increment and you don't want to add data to them, then you can just leave them out of this. But here you put in the columns that you want to add data to. Then you go ahead and say values. Take note, all these words you see in capital letter are keywords. That means these ones must be written, whereas this is simply the name of your table, whatever name, and these are the names of your column. So we say values, we create another parenthesis, and this time inside quotation mark we begin to put the data. So for the name, let's say we want to put a name called John Henry, and John Henry lives where? Let's say he lives in right, this is his address. We'll say Abuja. So let's go ahead and save that. Remember, our SQL statement has been put in here. Let's change our console.log. Let's just say one row inserted. Save that. I come here and I run it. And as you can see, the row has been inserted. What if we want to insert multiple values at once? Then this is what I'll do. First of all, I'll come here and instead of putting the data directly, I'll simply put a question mark. Mind you, in the next lessons, we're going to be seeing how we can visually view our data. So let's get back. So now what I'll do is that I have put a question mark here. I'll now come here and create an array of the values. So I'll say values equal to array, and then inside this array, let's keep it neat. Inside this array, I'll begin to put in arrays that contain my name and address. Assuming I had something else here, I'll also put it in. This is what I mean. So my first entry now is going to be another array inside this first array, and here I'm going to put in my, let's say, Alicia, and then her address will be, let's say, Boston, right? I just put Boston there, and then I'll create the next entry. Let's say Jane, Jane stays in where? Let's just say Ibadan. Right, let's add a third entry, and then let's say his name is what? And James stays in right. So as you can see, these are my entries. This here, the very first values contain my names, and the second values contain my address. Assuming I had something, just assuming I had something here, like let's say contact. I had added another column to my table called contact. Then that means here too, I'll have to put in the contact of the people. Mind you, these are random numbers. I'm just typing in like this, right? So that each 1, 2, 3 will correspond to 1, 2, 3. But we don't have a column called contact currently, so it will generate an error. Let's go ahead and clean that. So as you can see, these first columns here correspond to this column called name. This second column here correspond to this column called address. And so now, instead of just writing SQL and our function, we are going to add another parameter this time. Put it inside like this, and then say values, which is the name of our array. So what I'm saying now is that insert into the customer table name and address values question mark, and then I go here and create an array, and inside that array I create arrays that contain the values. And so here, instead of just passing the SQL statement direct, I also need to pass that value, those values, which is what you see here. So I can go ahead and just say 3 rows started here. I save that, and then I come here, I press Ctrl C to reset my terminal and run it again. Okay, we have an error. Let's look into that. Okay, I think the error is coming from the fact that this is an array and I'm supposed to separate each value by a comma. I save that, and then I run it again, and as you can see, it is showing 3 rows inserted. I broke down the array like this so that it can be readable, and I advise you do that. But if you notice, whenever you're writing your array state, you actually need to add the commas too, just like you're seeing commas inside this particular array. So let's continue making progress, right? Now, this is how you can insert multiple data at once into your table. Now you will notice that we have this parameter here called result. And usually whenever you run an SQL query from Node.js, it will return an object called result. And this object usually has certain properties. For example, I could say something like this. Result dot affected rows, right? So let me go ahead and change the values so that at least it will not add the same values. Go ahead and save that, and now you will find out that it will print or dynamically the affected rows. So let's go ahead and Ctrl C to clear, to restart the terminal, so to say, and then run it. As you can see, affected rows are 3, and this 3 is actually not hard printed into the code. This 3 is coming from our result parameter. So let me just go ahead and list out all the properties that are inside the result. Or most of them. We have field count, we have field count property, we have affected rows, just like you have seen here. We have insert ID. Now what insert ID will do is that it will show you the ID of the row you just inserted. We have server status, and as the name implies, we have warning count. If there's any warning, you get to see it here. What number of warnings you have a message, that's the actual probably warning message. You have many other things. Change rows will show you the rows that have been affected, assuming you were probably updating, not really inserting. So all of these are the properties found within this result object that is returned. Remember, we dealt extensively with objects when we were dealing with in JavaScript. Yes. So that's how you insert into your database. So in the next lesson, we're going to be seeing how we can retrieve data from our database and how we can see our data visually.